Let's talk about the one thing that disrupts and destroys and disconnects sexual intimacy. Not just sexual intimacy, but emotional intimacy. What bonds us, what connects us, what binds us, what brings us closest and connects us. Now, there isn't just one thing. There are many things. So where do we start? You can start anywhere, but let me start here. Let me start with you. Let me start with me. Let us start with the one thing that disrupts intimacy is you. Now you may say, well, Steph, that's pretty obvious. But of course it's us. We're the common denominator. You'd be surprised how many people either don't or can't see that they are the common denominator in the issues that they face with intimacy, whether it be sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, spiritual intimacy, just taking themselves, their vulnerability, their openness, their sharing to the next or the other level. So when I say it's you, yes, you're the common denominator, but I want to even take that down even further. I want to dig deeper into the you part or the me part. And so I want to speak to specifically childhood wounding or unresolved issues. Now, some of you may hear that I speak a great deal to this. Is it everything when it comes to how we behave as adults? No. But it can play a major role in how we see ourselves, how we see others, how we give and receive love, how we communicate with ourselves and how we communicate with our loved ones when we are experiencing challenge, difficulty, or when we are under pressure. And what I really want to speak to right now is something that's been very active for me lately, where I'm uncovering and unpacking more layers of deeper work that I've already done. And that's the father wound. And so my ego says, but Steph, we've done work around this. We don't have to continue going deeper. You've been through the trenches. You've been and experienced the pain. You've gone through feeling. You've gone through forgiveness. You don't need to go deeper into this. But the soul then says, which is a mature version of the ego, the soul says, yes, but the work that we've done previously to this is what is allowing us to explore this layer of being. And so something that's coming up for me a great deal is this father wound, and it's stopping me from being intimate, or rather my lack of willingness to go into this father wound has distanced me from my partner, and it's distanced me from myself. I found that I'm numbing myself, I'm distracting myself, I'm choosing not to feel, I'm not sharing deeper with who I am. What is that doing? That's distancing me from intimacy. It's a struggle to be sexually connected, emotionally connected to your partner, to your beloved, even to yourself, when you're dealing with a pain point or a set of fears or a wounding or something that's unresolved from your past. And when you're not dealing with it and you're not resolving it, you're choosing to not face it, and in turn choosing to live a very reclusive lifestyle. That's what happens when we don't deal with our stuff. So for me, I'm back in the place where I was born and where I largely grew up. And there is a lot energetically and even physical objects that are reminding me of my past. And it's bringing to the surface of my awareness and to my consciousness old father stuff, where I saw my father lack deep compassion and deep empathy, where I saw him and witnessed him and felt him not feel, where I longed for his approval, I longed for his guidance, and he wasn't present, or he couldn't give it, or it was tainted with anger and aggression and despondency. And what I've been finding the last few weeks is that I'm being this person. I'm being this man that I once swore I would never be, or I detested. And because I am not and was not embracing this part of me and not coming to a deeper level of acceptance of those experiences, I was being this person in my current relationship, lacking empathy and compassion when Christine needed it the most. And even those around me being very numb and rigid and almost severed in my emotions. And so what would happen? I would push on then my partner's or my beloved's wounding. And she would then be so upset, so sad, and and so distant around why can't I demonstrate compassion for something so simple? If she's moving through a pain or through a physical complication, a health complication, why can't I just simply show affection, show care and sincerity and empathy and compassion? And in that moment I was projecting upon her that little boy that was within me. And I was assuming this role of the father figure, but instead of actually moving through and being different and breaking those generational patterns and choosing to be compassionate and empathetic, I was being rigid and I was embracing what was familiar, what I was exposed to, because I was so scared to actually feel and change and make changes at that visceral level. It's interesting, the psychodrama that presents itself to us in real world situations and the opportunities that come from that. And so I resisted for a period of time, 2-3 weeks, but it kept building more friction and tension in our relationship and in my relationship to myself. I was frustrated and I was projecting my internal frustration that I had in myself for not being a better man, for not being compassionate and empathetic, for being someone that at that time couldn't give me what he needed. Now, in terms of me having made peace with my father as an adult, and even as a child, absolutely that's there, but when there's layers to unravel, we have to go through motions again. And I think if we're awake and our eyes are open, our hearts are beating, and we're choosing to live a willing, open life, a sincere, authentic life, I think we're always growing. And so the opportunity presented itself for me to grow, and I resisted it for a period of time. And it caused me to sever the intimacy. I was angry at myself and projecting that anger onto my beloved, even though I wasn't angry at her for being who she was or expressing how she was. She wasn't doing anything wrong. It was me. And I was so stuck and numb until I chose to move through that barrier and be vulnerable with myself and feel these feelings. And the moment, honestly, the moment that I really chose to feel and then share and be open and clear and discerning and open-hearted in my communication and my expression with my beloved, but more importantly with myself, that's when intimacy shifted. This invisible and visible distance between us shortened. We became affectionate with each other. I opened my heart up to her. She saw me. All she wanted was truth. All she wanted was truth. All she wanted was to hear me, to feel her man. And I was unsafe because I was being inconsistent. I was in this space of being compassionate, affectionate, and then being so frustrated with this new way of being. Not that I haven't been affectionate or compassionate or empathetic before, not at all. But this new way of being whilst experiencing this difficulty and tension, that I was then reverting back to frustration and tension within myself and then very overtly expressing that. And so there was a confusion there. And if there's inconsistency, we were unsafe as men. And so my responsibility, I had to take ownership of really stepping into consistent behavior. And the only way to do that was to deal with my stuff, was to deal with my wounding and my pain that I was projecting onto someone that I cared about and onto the world. I wasn't being quote unquote useful. I wasn't being authentic to myself because I was avoiding something that needed attention. And when we continue to avoid, it becomes a habit and a pattern, and it becomes our norm. And so we always go to avoidance. Yet that stuff, that pain, that unresolved stuff, it bubbles underneath the surface and it affects us. Whether we believe it or not, we think it or not, it affects us. And it's not about being perfect and being clear all the time. It's just about ownership and stepping into what ails you, what you feel needs to be shifted in order for you to step into that version of self that is more responsible, more remarkable in the world, and more value aligned, in greater alignment with your truth today, not conditioned or influenced by a version of the past. And there will be things in our environment, in our relationships that trigger this, that bring this up to our attention, and the opportunity is to deal with it and bring it into our hearts, not repel it and push it away. Trust me, friends, when we do that, we grow and we liberate ourselves, we feel free. And that's the freedom I've felt by moving through and dealing with this stuff and having an amazing partner that's been patient and could mirror back to me the compassion and the empathy that I needed to give. And that's the patience that she had, and that's the love that we can share with each other. Power and blessings to you. Thank you.